Well, happy Friday. Let's see, change my volume here. Happy Friday. It is the 9th of January. We're going to bring on Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes here in just a few moments. We're going to talk about a whole list of people that you've all heard about. And she's got a lot more information about what's going on and how they're all connected. Sort of the usual suspects. We're going to talk about Venezuela and some of that. So do not miss this. Get your friends, text them, and tell them we're going to talk more with Dr. Jan about Venezuela and all the connections there as well. So it's going to be great. Before we bring her in, we're going to do a quick reminder of the wells we're digging. Remember that so many of these people not only get clean fresh water for the first time in their lives, right out of the ground, clean, not even warm or anything, but it's many of these people that get that water then come to the Lord Jesus Christ, and we celebrate that. So with that in mind, here is that well spot. You'll celebrate with us. I know you will. Here we go.
I'm thankful our prayers were answered.
I'm thankful I can drink clean water for the first time in my life.
I'm thankful I don't have to work far anymore.
I'm thankful for peace in our home.
And when we show up, this is kind of a ministry partnership between Show Mercy, their mission base there in Uganda, and ElijahStreams. And both people like Mike and Lori run Show Mercy, and they also work for us full time. So it's a very close partnership. And when we show up, which is like when they show up and to survey for water, we're not asking anything from them, with one exception. Whoever agrees to put the well on their property, we just thank them, and they are willing to donate that piece of land, and then the community, the whole village around, gets to walk there, and they get to enjoy it as the people use the water on their property. So exciting. Thank you so much for giving to us, to this ministry, so that we can give to these beautiful people of Uganda. So thank you again and again and again. Johnny Endo will be with us on Monday morning, 11 o'clock Pacific, 2 o'clock Eastern. So other than that, I don't think I have any other announcements. So here we go with Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes. Here we go.
Eric called me and said, hey, what are your top 5 favorite Christian broadcasts? He asked, and I said, you got to get on ElijahStreams. You got to do it. Steve's great. You got to get on his show.
Dr. Jan, how are you?
I'm great, Steve. How are you?
Doing really good. Good to see you. Now, are you in the UK now, or are you over here?
I'm over in the U.S. Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Um,
Tell people if you can, what do you, you've said it every few episodes I say, remind people of what you do here.
well, I moved here because I have been offered a permanent position at the Department of Defense. However,
Yay.
I'm going through my vetting, and someone else who served in the first administration and is a China expert didn't, for some odd reason, pass his vetting, which that's just the political side. But
Yeah.
I packed up. In fact, I have tenants moving into my place in London the end of January. I found a place in the U.S. In Alexandria, just across the water from D.C. Um, it has been stressful for the craziest reasons. My belongings don't arrive for another 3 months,
Oh my.
but to buy a bed, in my day, did you want a firm, a hard, or a soft bed? And did you need box springs or not? There are
That's
like
it.
24 choices. Memory foam, cooling gel, 12-inch, 14-inch, soft. It was like, is it going to be this stressful? And but I've just slowly been putting some things together so I'm not completely camping out till my life arrives. And I'm getting word that so far my vetting is moving forward. So
Is it the whole thing about not just the vetting, but people approving because of all these political things? They should have approved it a long time ago, or is it just a slow process?
the way the general explained it to me is that, Jan, it can take anywhere from 1 to 4 months.
Okay, wow. Wow.
And that's why things don't get done in our government. I mean, what is taking that long, especially with computers, especially with AI, especially with everyone's lives been followed by our CIA and our FBI and every other bit of technology. But hopefully I will be there full time and I'll be able to make a difference.
And then what you do there at the is it still called the Department of War now? Did they change that?
I know it's the intention to change it. I don't know if it's been official.
Official, okay. And are you allowed to say what you would do there, or is that part just kind of secret?
I don't have a fully clear idea, but
Okay.
I know that the person that he's going to put in every bit of health care for our soldiers. And so that's
Good.
the stream or the silo or the division or whatever you want to call it, that he's interested in me coming in and doing my work with strategy and change.
Good. Now, when that happens, last question: will we still have access to you, or will we lose you for a
Yes.
while?
You
We
won't
will.
lose me.
Very
You
good.
won't lose
Awesome.
me. No, that's part of the deal, was that I could still talk to 3 different people in podcasts, and you're at the top of the list.
Oh well, thank you, Dr. Jen.
Oh,
That's very very honoring.
This is a joy for my life every month, because
Wow.
I start thinking about 2 weeks ahead of time, and then I love the fact that you want my notes in advance. So I really have to think things through and also try to make sure it's as current as can be. And then also, because you and your team are so flexible, we can bring in what's current, and it often works out. Like, it just so happens Maduro and what we're going to talk about today, and I can bring back some of the other stuff of how we lost our Constitution and the Cabal and all of that. So it always works out great, and I feel that with you, I get to bring meaningful insight and information and pull things together for people.
Very good. Well, let's jump in. Now, Angie, I'll just ask this. Once in a while, her photo goes a little soft. Are we good to just keep going? Oh, now it's sharp again. So I think you're good, Dr. Jen. It kind of went soft on us for a minute, but I think we're really sharp now. So at least for me, anyway. All right. Let's go ahead and start with whatever you have. I see a bunch of names, and I don't know if you had any other prep before that, but did you want to start with Maduro?
Well, here's the overview, because now that we're going to bring Maduro into it, what I wanted to talk about for people is the dark triad. And if people have been on X Spaces and they've heard me in other interviews, they know that I have a very strong bias about using labels to describe people, because the minute you use a label, then it shuts your whole brain off in understanding them. So, and also my whole psychological training with Dr. Carl Rogers was that you never labeled anyone, because if I said you're obsessive compulsive,
Right.
then what I've done is I've put you in a box, but that's only one aspect, because we're very complex. But if instead I ask the question, why is it so important that all those things are in place before you can do anything?
Yeah.
That is a behavior of someone who has obsessive compulsive tendencies.
That's
So,
really good. That means that they can walk out of that and healed eventually, I guess.
right. Or if I said you're neurotic, well, what does neurotic mean?
Yeah.
And so with the dark triad, there are 3 categories of behavior that contribute to these evil people and a lot of our politicians and a lot of what's been going on in the world. So
And
again,
before you jump in, that when you use that term, the dark triad, is that a descriptive term or is that a thing, an actual?
it is a psychological category of
Okay.
3 behaviors.
Okay. Got it.
Okay? Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Okay? Now, we've heard people, and even some psychologists, and I don't think they fully understand, but they say, oh, Trump's a narcissist, or Trump's a psychopath, but you know what? What I want to do is give either the adjectives or the adverbs that explain the behavior underneath each of these, and no one falls under a single line. There is overlapping, but you have predominant actions, or like we have priority and then secondary priorities. It's the same with behavior, with thinking. So when people, they like the sound of psychopath, but I'm going to describe it and hopefully give people a different perspective. Some people call it antisocial or dissocial. What does that mean? So
Yeah.
you don't like people? No. So let me first give a bit of an overview of that, and I'm going to keep on referring back to it with behavior.
Okay.
And how this also ties in with Maduro is it not exactly Maduro, but it's the cartels, it's the bankers, it's the people that have been in control for, well, I go back to 1689 when William the Conqueror gave the city of London the sovereign state. And for people that don't understand that, the city of London is 1 mile square. It is where all the banking and trade has been controlled since way back then, and it has a Lord Mayor. So the Queen and now the King cannot enter the city of London without permission from the Lord Mayor.
That's
It is-
unbelievable. I mean,
it
a
is-
mayor that's more powerful than the Queen.
For the City of London, for all the finance and trade around the world. Yes,
Unbelievable.
around the world. And what people don't, and so the Vatican City is the other sovereign state, and Washington, D.C. is the third part of that triad. It has its own constitution. And I'm just going to do a little refresher for people of how that came to be, because when we had our Civil War, Britain had claimed they were on the side of the North. But the Cabal, sometimes referred to as the Crown Corporation, sometimes called the central bankers, they instead were funding the South. They were buying cotton, they were having them make ammunition. They were feeding them and keeping them financially solvent, which put the North bankrupt and in debt. So the North had to borrow money from France. When the Civil War ended, the Cabal, the Crown Corporation, those central bankers, the City of London, then said, because Ulysses S. Grant did not use our 14th Amendment, it had to be resolved in the international court. So it then was, quote unquote, resolved in the international court that the U.S. would be in debt to the City of London until Donald Trump bankrupt our piece of the Crown Corporation in 2020. A portion of our taxes always had to go back. We were never really free. You know, Paul Revere and the ride and the tea bags and
All that stuff. It's like, is it partially fake history, or just not all the pieces are not talked about?
It's not fake history. It's actually factual events that tried to separate from the king. And we did separate from the king, but we never separated from the Crown Corporation, the money people, and the goldsmiths. And the other thing was that King James I and King James II had pretty much bankrupted England. And the Cabal has really been the financiers of most of the monarchy throughout Europe. And so they wanted King James II out. So they got a Dutch guy, William of Orange. Then it just so happened that Pope Innocent the 14th was part of a very powerful Italian banking family. His family funded William of Orange so he could pay 20,000 people to be his army to overthrow King James II, and the Cabal basically installed him. The Cabal took over the Bank of England. The Bank of England is not part of the government of the United Kingdom, and never has been. Never has been. So now, let me jump and go back to these three terms: Machiavellism, psychopath, and a narcissist.
Okay.
And these are the three behaviors that basically guide those people that are in power to not do what's right for us. They are oligarchs. The oligarchs are the people who only want a few to be empowered to control the many.
And this is like I've heard terms about 13 families control the earth. Is that another term for the same thing, or what?
Well, it's another term, and yes, because they benefit financially. The banking community, the very top of the banking community are the oligarchs. They're the ones that make the decisions so that they benefit and the other people don't. I mean, they wanted us in serfdom. The whole lockdown failed. They thought that not only would they bankrupt us and put us in poverty and have a universal income and make us dependent and beholden, and it backfired on them. But
Only because of Trump, right? There would have been no other person could have ever stood up to that.
Well, Trump wasn't really there
Okay.
because Biden came in, but what they didn't realize, and this was the psychological component,
Okay.
by locking us up, we didn't have any more distractions. We didn't have to get someplace. We had time to think. We had time to reflect. Now, many truthers will say, I've been a truther for 35 years. I was aware of this for 20 years, and good for them. Thank God for them. But
Yeah.
what it did for the majority of people is it gave them time to think and be aware and to question, because there was nothing else distracting their attention. And that was the psychological part that backfired.
They forgot about that. But plus we were all interconnected literally on the internet. We could communicate, strategize, plan, all that stuff, right?
That's right. And even when they canceled people off of all social media, YouTube, more things kept popping up. The word could get out.
Yeah.
And then now, let me just give you some understanding of each of these three.
Okay.
Because the Machiavellian is, they are strategic, they are manipulative, they are deceitful, but because they're strategic, they are the most capable of playing the long game. Because we wonder, how long could this have been going on? And it's been going on centuries, not just decades. And they are the ones that strategize. They are the ones that will use manipulation and be deceitful. And, but here's the thing, what they're guided by is having power. That is their primary motivator. Power over people, power over things, power over money. And they drive that. Now, we have narcissists. Elizabeth Warren is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
In that, when Senator Padilla had interrupted Kristi Noem's press conference, and I guess it was the Secret Service that guards her, took him down and arrested him, Elizabeth Warren's comment was, oh, he's a senator. How could he be arrested? Now, anyone in a position of power that thinks their title makes them superior over other people,
Yeah.
that is a narcissistic quality. So people that call Donald Trump a psychopath, no. A psychopath is very impulsive. They lie, they're glib, they exploit people, they have an arrogance. And to contrast that with the narcissist, I haven't heard this term for years, but when I was younger, we would say that somebody had a superiority complex.
Okay. That was the term.
That was, forget psychology and psychobabble and everything else. That was just the easiest term. And it was the way of saying, they're acting like they're superior, but they're really, we can see through them, even though they don't think that we can see through them. And so a narcissist is driven for admiration. And underneath that mask of superiority is someone who every day questions their self-worth. Therefore, that's why that title, the position of authority, is what gives them power, because they don't have the ego power. They don't have the self-confidence power. Now,
Yeah.
let me go back to the psychopath,
Okay.
because a good old psychopath is not physically violent, but they would do anything to be psychologically violent. So we've heard the
Okay.
term gaslighting.
Yeah.
So they would say to you, I just explained this to you, and why don't you understand? Is there something wrong with you? Why are you questioning this? And make
I
you
know a
think you're
lot of those people.
crazy,
A lot of
right?
those.
Make you think you're crazy because
Yeah.
how you're seeing things, they are trying to tell you that how you're seeing it is absolutely wrong.
You know, I got to just insert one thing. I had someone tell me that was closely related, and I was said, I know who I am, and I know what God's called me to do. And I was talking about the wells we're creating and all of that, and the people that are coming to the Lord, and all the people that we're helping get food that did. And this person said, everything you're saying, you've hurt way more people than you've helped. And it was just like this, like blanket condemnation that you are not only worthless in what you're doing, but you've damaged people way more than you've ever helped people. It was just like this blanket thing. And I thought, well, that ended that relationship, because there was no getting past that
Right.
mindset, you know?
Right. But also, here's the thing, is that the psychopath does not concern themselves with how you felt based on being a receiver from those comments.
I
They
see.
say things, they don't care. They, empathy, oh, absolutely not in their bailiwick. Now, a narcissist does not have a self-understanding, because they can't possibly admit they might have done anything wrong, because that would take them down a notch from feeling that kind of superiority. And so with the psychopath, let's just think Nancy Pelosi is a cross between Machiavellianism and psychopath. She always said the end justifies the means.
She says that basically, or she just acts that way?
Oh, she says.
She does.
Oh, wait. Anyone who subscribed to Alinsky's 13 rules,
Oh, she does.
ends justify the means, which means you can do anything as long as you achieve your goal, and it doesn't matter who you hurt, who you impact, whether it's amoral, any bit of that. And the other part for her is having the power. If you think about the 60-minute interview she did when the squad was gaining power,
Yeah.
she gave a throwaway line of, well, the 5, well, there were only 4.
There are. Oh, so she decided, if I include myself in that.
No.
Oh,
It was a way of saying, I'm not paying attention to who they are.
okay.
I'm not going to get it right. I'm not going to give them any credence.
Okay.
And then also think about how important feminism is to all these Democrat women.
Okay.
But do any of them bring other Democrat women along? Now, I will say the squad are a good example of camaraderie and support, but they're not in power. So when you look at Nancy Pelosi, when you look at Elizabeth Warren, when you look at Klobuchar, and what have they done to bring any other women aboard or further their career or
So are you saying almost other women are, by the ones you're describing, are by nature a threat to their very existence or position because of their own personality? If a strong woman comes along, she's almost going to be pushed down by these type of women. Am I?
yes,
Something like that. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Where Madeleine Albright, when Hillary Clinton was campaigning, said any woman that doesn't support another woman belongs in hell. That of that generation, that was very much the same. But that turned a lot of younger women off and did not subscribe to Hillary Clinton's form of feminism. But to not get off on feminism
Sure.
too much. But let's go back to narcissism. Elizabeth Warren is a good case because she was basically censured by the Senate because she made some comments and she was outraged that they would do that. A narcissist, you can't ask them any questions. You can't challenge them on anything because they see it as a betrayal. But think about how someone responds, like, how dare you question? I had a friend who said to another friend that it was okay to listen to her, but she never stopped talking. Which was true. She never shut. And this friend decided not to be friends with the other person anymore. And this person, when I think about the things that she would describe, she would say things to the rest of us. Well, I'm already at the fourth level, ready to go to the fifth level. You know, I can see things that other people don't see. And you know what? If you're talking that way, then maybe you're trying to convince yourself, but you're not. That's not true. So let's just take Trump for a minute.
Sure.
How could anyone call him a psychopath when every message is to give the government back to the people, where every action he takes is to make things better and to call out the bad guys? So he doesn't fall under psychopath. Did Trump ever really want political power? Because that's
I don't
what
think he did. I don't think
No.
they begged him to run for president, and he said only if I have to. And that was way back in, it's like 30 some years ago. He never ran. He never tried for office. It was like he felt that you could tell he felt an obligation maybe in the future, but he was not pursuing it.
No, not at all. And in fact, they had courted him and begged him for, you're right, 30 years plus.
Yeah.
And if you go to the 1999 interview with Tim Russett, who asked him if he was going to run for president, he said, I would only run if I knew I could win.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right. And Jerome Corsi, you can find this on YouTube still, thank goodness, is the one that confirmed for us that the military begged him and recruited him.
Do you know we had him on our show one time, and he said that on our air. He said the military begged him and recruited him. However,
Yes.
I don't know if he used the word beg on that particular.
No,
he
he
wouldn't.
wouldn't. Of course, he wouldn't have used beg, but
yeah, but yeah,
yes, that's exactly it. And so you can't call him an autocrat or power hungry, because also everything he wants to try to do is of action that would benefit other people.
it is true.
So now he's getting criticism. I don't like watching the BBC that often, but it was I forget his title, but he's more than a spokesperson for the Prime Minister of the UK. And he
Okay.
was on the BBC. And so this BBC interviewer said, so I guess Trump is now running Venezuela and he wants power over it. And the gentleman said, no, that's not exactly it. What it is that he's not for regime change. And he is willing to support the people that are already there. But so the Democrats have had crazy reactions to Maduro.
Mhm.
I have watched some people on X crying, saying this is an act of war. You had to let Congress know. Trump and Rubio gave an interview, and Trump said that the reason that they didn't tell Congress ahead of time was because you tell Congress and things leak. And they
Mhm.
couldn't have it leak because it would have had a totally different turnout. Now, our neocons. Neocons, again, want power. They want to bring democracy in. So Bolton, with his walrus mustache, gave an interview and said, well, it will be a hollow victory if there's not a regime change. Yet, Rubio has said we're working with the former vice president, who's now taking over.
You-
We're not interested in regime change.
You know, when he said that, or when I heard that and learned that, I thought, only an extremely wise strategist would leave the enemy second in charge next to Maduro in power after going to all that work. That is everything but a regime change. It's like saying, we're keeping the regime, but she better work with us. You know, that who would have thought of that? I've never even heard of such a concept.
Well, and here's part of the reason. And these people that were saying that this was an act of war. No, there was since 2020 a warrant for the arrest of Maduro.
Okay.
So Trump, as CIC, who can enact federal warrants, use that. This was not an act of war. This was not going against Congress. This was, why do we have extraditions? Okay, no one was going to turn Maduro over to us because we had a warrant. We had to go get him.
That's good.
But then, all right, we have an extradition treaty, so it falls under that kind of category, not an act of war. And why Venezuela? And let me back up a minute. This all goes back to Executive Order 13848, the one about foreign and domestic interference in our elections, and we will sanction, we will take their assets. So why is Cuba worried? Why is Colombia worried? Because now think of this spider web, and in
Yeah.
the center of the spider web is Venezuela, and the bankers and the cabal and the cartels, because if the cartels didn't have the support of the bankers, and the bankers have needed the money that the cartels generate, if you think about that, Venezuela, then you get Colombia and you get Cuba. And why is Trump talking about Canada so much? Because Mark Carney had been head of the Bank of England. How do you live in England and be the chair of the Bank of England and then go to Canada and become the prime minister or the president or whatever his title is, but in charge? Yeah, prime minister. And we knew that Bolton was called out because he was one of the pawns of the cabal. Mark Carney is not a pawn. He's a bigger player on the chessboard.
He's
And
been installed as opposed to,
oh,
but he's not only installed, but given the authority. It sounds like you're saying like he's got more authority.
he
And
has had authority way back when. They groomed him to then, when he was in charge of the Bank of England. Basically, the Bank of England influences every other central bank around the world. In talking about this spider web and Venezuela being so important, Venezuela is important because that's where the drugs and the cartel gets their money. And it's connected to Cuba and Colombia. But then why is Trump mentioning Canada so much?
yeah, that's a good question.
Mark Carney, who is the prime minister, but was the head of the Bank of England. The Bank of England is controlled by the Crown Corporation, the Cabal, the City of London. They took control in the mid 1700s
Gee.
because they basically finance all the monarchies throughout Europe. See, the British political system, or the British system, when we hear the term imperialism,
Yeah,
why we threaten, why Trump threatens the cabal and the bankers and the people in power, the Council of Foreign Relations, all of those, which it's really almost the same people that are in all of those organizations, is because what made America great is that we were a production economy. Where the Brits have their economists, and it is economic imperialism. That is not what America has wanted. And so when you're hearing the Democrats react, when you're hearing people around the world react to Trump going in to Venezuela and seizing Maduro, it's all, what they're really saying is these are the things we're afraid of. These are the things we're reading into it. These are the things that are possibly at risk because you've now captured him. And when they say he's doing something wrong, let me reiterate, as I said a few minutes ago, there was a warrant for his arrest. Biden put a 25 million bounty act.
right. He started the whole thing with, or I don't know if he started it, but he made it, he amplified it with a reward.
Exactly. The warrant was already there. Biden amplified it. But that's also the way and see, I would put Biden under psychopath. I don't think he's got an ego strong enough for a narcissist. And he's never showed overt power hungriness. He's more impulsive, arrogant, willing to lie, ends justify the means.
Well,
So
does he have the, but he did have that sense of superiority, right?
Yes, and again, as I said, there's overlapping.
Yeah, you did say that.
So primary could be this, and he can have the narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah.
But I'm less inclined to say that Biden ever demonstrated a crack in the wall that he doubted his self-worth. He was criminal. Psychopaths are criminal. They don't care about the impact. So if we just look at those primary behaviors, those primary actions, that falls under the category of someone who is of psychopath tendencies.
Wow.
Now, the Machiavellian, because they're strategic, manipulative, they'll be deceitful, but they like to use people, so they have power over things, power over entities, power over people. Power is a really, really important thing. That's not where I would say Biden has had or has predominant tendencies. But again, you cannot call Trump that. We can look at Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is clearly Machiavellian. Clearly Machiavellian.
And by the definition of Machiavellian is this whole evil. You go ahead and give it, because I have my own idea of what that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So first is motivated to have power.
Yeah.
Power over people, things, entities.
Okay.
To have that power, they would manipulate, they would be deceitful. It is high self-interest. And they're clever, not necessarily always dishonest, but you can stretch the truth. They're willing to stretch the truth. It was a Fauci. Noble lies, where did that term come from? And anyone say that that was justified?
Talk about that. What was it? Did someone use that term, noble lies?
Noble, oh yes, noble lies. It is a widely accepted term in political circles because it's a noble lie to withhold information from you because we think the information might hurt you or you might not be able to handle it. But who are they to decide? And two, noble lies are deceitful lies so that they can use people to get to their end. It is a BS term. A Machiavellian, Fauci, people in power use the justification of a noble lie. Oh, they might not be able to handle it. We'll just give them information so we can get them to do what we want, self-interest. Or Fauci had given an interview and he came out and said, you know, I don't think we put enough pressure, enough fear in people to get them to do what we wanted them to do. That is Machiavellianism. That is noble lies. That is self-interest. And that comes down to why would you do it? So I can have the power to achieve what it is that I want achieved. And that is the mindset. So don't tell me that Trump is a dictator, authoritarianism, or anything else, because there is nothing in his behavior. I agree that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. And I know he keeps saying that. So, and he was upset about the fake news. Trump is a man of action, and he wants his actions recognized.
Yeah, he does. And who can blame him?
Because he's asked for his actions to be recognized, then people put the narcissist label on him. Well, excuse me. You know, I've done a few good things. I wouldn't mind a pat on the back.
Well, how about someone that just runs the 100 meter, the 400 meter, and they want that gold? If someone took it from, I want to be recognized for what I did. What are you doing taking it away from me? There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. And that is the same thing of any kind of action that you just want an attagirl, attaboy, well done. Yeah, and he also does this from his heart. So of course he wants an attaboy, and he deserves an attaboy.
Yeah.
But when they call him a narcissist for simply saying, hey, the fake news won't give me any credit for this. Well, yeah, But also, can you imagine Trump, 35 years, the darling of the media? I mean, I lived in New York when he and Ivana, his first wife, really became the it couple and really brought an aspect of change to culture, American culture. I mean, they call him a narcissist because he's the one that brought in personal branding. Has anyone done personal branding better? And until he ran for president, when I would do workshops or consult with people, it would always be your personal brand is what people say about you when you walk out of the room.
Yeah.
How do you describe your personal brand in 15 seconds? Or what's your 10-second elevator speech?
Yeah.
All of that was, people were encouraged to be able to have that pride and to be able to convey their personal brand. Trump comes, runs for president, and now he's a narcissist, he's a psychopath. No, he is not any of those things. And in fact, he looks very tired right now. And if I had any way of asking him to take time off and get some rest, because he's working so darn hard, I
Yeah.
would. And I know a lot of people feel that way because you can see he looks tired. And I think that's why people are going, oh, his health, his health. No. What other president, after he left office, doesn't look like he aged?
Yeah, everyone. I
And
mean, especially Obama, he got grayer and grayer, and they all did. So
and
if you add the stress that they put on President Trump, why wouldn't he be tired? Why wouldn't he be an exhausting thing to fight every minute of every day?
And you look at his face and you look at his hair color, and he didn't age. And one of the reasons that he didn't age, and if you listen to his West Point speeches, is because he deals with the stress and the issues in the moment. He's not one who
It's good.
will harbor things. He will deal with it and move on. Now, the psychopath, oh, you better watch out, because they will hold grudges and then wait to pat you on the back till they find the soft spot and stick the knife in. You know, it's like talking to a person and you think you're in right field, and suddenly you don't know where you are, and they're asking you why you're not in left field and what they do to pull this. And those are the kinds of things that they do. But also, Machiavellianism came about because the definition of power was for kings and rulers. And kings and rulers, part of the definition of their life and the power that came to them was to rule over people.
Yeah.
And yet, many of our politicians, many people in business, many people in finance, many people in the arts, if you're a director or a producer on a film, you can find the same qualities in these people. So now what we have is a whole British imperial system that is feeling so threatened because Trump took Maduro, and Maduro wasn't a pawn. He was one of the big, he wasn't the king or the queen on the chessboard.
You're
But
saying he was, you might say even he wasn't just a pawn. Another word might be he was a puppet. He was doing what he was told to do, right?
no, I would say that, well, yes, he was doing what he was told to do, but I'd say he was a rook or he was a knight.
Oh, so you're saying he was
Yeah.
higher up than a pawn.
He
Okay.
was much higher up
Okay.
in this whole chessboard.
Okay.
Bankers,
Yeah.
oligarchs, cartel, drugs, they have all been dependent on it. Epstein. When I've talked about Epstein, I have said that he was groomed, and actually, let me review it because I did it with Kelsey and not.
Yeah, please do.
Yes. So, one, how does a college dropout, which is what Epstein was, get hired to teach at the Dalton School, which is the elite private school
Really?
of the liberals in New York? And who hires him but Bill Barr's father, our former Attorney General Bill Barr? His
Really?
father hired him to teach, which also helped making contacts and everything else. And Bill Barr's father was a member of the precursor to the CIA.
Oh.
He worked for the OSS. So that started Epstein's connections. Then the head of Bear Stearns hired Epstein. Epstein became an expert in hiding money. The Cabal bankers created the 14 non-taxable islands around the world where you could hide money, and Epstein was a master at hiding people's money. So when people were thinking that Epstein blackmailed people, why would he blackmail people when in fact he's in charge of their money? He doesn't need to blackmail them. He is managing their money. Rockefeller put him on the Council of Foreign Relations. Rockefeller made him a trustee at the Rockefeller University. Now, this is a Jewish man in New York with the power players who is being introduced to the power players around the globe. Uneducated, doesn't have any of the credentials that make it important to run in those circles. And I think that actually Ghislaine Maxwell was his handler and not just his girlfriend. Because why did she get 20 years and he only got 8? Why did Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, tell the judge to refuse any FOIA requests for information from her trial? What has really been withheld? But Epstein was a major pawn for the banking cartel. Now, also,
Is it okay if I interrupt?
no, let me finish
Go ahead.
it.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Epstein also financed Khashoggi with the Iran-Contra affair. So if we look at that, and if we go back and look at his involvement and who he was involved with, again, what we're looking at is drugs, offshore money, hidden money, Cabal, Crown Corporation, City of London, with the power over politicians and running things.
So, okay, so let me ask this because it sounds like you're saying, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put any words. It sounds like you're saying Epstein wasn't blackmailing anyone and he wasn't involved in trafficking children. Are you saying that?
I didn't say he wasn't involved in trafficking.
Oh, okay.
One of the ways I described his island and the benefits that his island provided was that if you work in sales for Apple and you have a client that would love to go to the 49ers game, you might even give them season tickets, or you might invite them to a game to be in the corporate box. His island was a perk for these sick people to act out their sexual perversions.
Okay.
So and I don't have confirmation. I don't think any of us have real confirmation as to who did the actual trafficking.
Okay.
But basically, he provided the environment for
Okay.
the availability of that to happen. And that was, if you think he's working for the powers that be that control the banks,
Yeah.
they were using him to entrap the other people. And why I said you can't ever accuse him of blackmailing anyone, because he was the one that was managing their worldwide assets.
Okay, so he was every bit as guilty of, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth. He was every bit as guilty of some of these things because he knew they were going on, but he was not himself involved in the blackmail aspect. Other people were, but not
Yes.
him. And he knew about those that were blackmailing them, but he was part of the whole, if you will, the club, the tribe, whatever that was doing it. His part was just the money part. Is that
He
about right?
was working for them. Bear Stearns first helped groom him to hide people's money on Guernsey and Jersey,
Okay.
the two islands off of the United Kingdom that are tax-free.
Okay.
So that he got drawn in. Then, at what point, Ghislaine Maxwell, whose father we know, MI6, Mossad, that's why I don't believe the story that she was just a girlfriend,
Yeah.
or she might have done the initial finding the girls. I think many people might have done the trafficking. What he made available was his island so that people can act on those
Okay.
needs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
So, I mean, okay, go ahead.
okay, and so he's managing money for person A. Person A decides that he would like a young thing and like to visit the island. Well, who is actually managing Ghislaine and Epstein so that they've got this going? But the Ghislaine and Epstein have the information and the relationships with the people,
I see.
but they don't want to blackmail them because Epstein needs that person to trust him because he's managing that person's
see.
worldwide
Okay.
assets.
Wow. How did that not? I mean, I obviously, I don't know what your sources are, but I believe what you're saying, everything. How does that not leak out that his whole role was just the money? Are they trying to make
Well-
him the patsy in this?
Now it goes back to the Cabal, the Bank of England,
Yeah.
the Crown Corporation. When it blew up in our news,
Yeah.
what was also happening at that time? One, Netanyahu was coming over to see Trump.
Yeah.
But two, what bill was before Congress at that moment? The Genius Act. The act that is leading to the U.S. having financial sovereignty away from British imperialism and economic philosophy. So if you want to make Trump look like a bad guy, get the Epstein issue back out into the news and
Okay.
have Congress not deal with it so that it makes people think that something is being hidden. So if you trace back what was going on, how it was dealt with, and now Trump has said, release all the Democrat names in those.
He kind of waited for them to demand it, demand him to be strung up, and that's exactly what he wanted them to do, is demand it, because then he knew they would find nothing, right?
Right. But then it is the powers, the financial powers, the oligarchs
Yeah.
that once again wanted Trump to look bad, wanted us to think bad
Mm-hmm.
about him, because the Genius Act was going to help separate us even further. Just bankrupting us from the corporation, the Crown
Yeah.
Corporation, doesn't fully do it. You've got to rebuild the new systems. And what people don't, I'm sure people don't think about, because why would we? But I think Scott Bessent, our cabinet secretary, our
Yeah.
secretary of the Treasury, is just as busy as Pete Hegseth, because if we're bombing those boats and we're cutting out the cartel, we've got financial issues
Yeah.
that need to be dealt with. And so what excites me, just from being an organizational psychologist, is to think about, when in our history have cabinet members worked in conjunction on policy issues and efforts and actions. And so when you've got the neocons, and you've got a Candace Owen, and you've got a Marjorie Taylor Greene inciting division in the MAGA
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
of war, and no, what this was, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it again and again. There was a warrant from 2020.
Yeah.
Biden had put out a bounty, a reward. Trump, as commander in chief, acted on a federal warrant. And it goes back to 13848, our executive order of seizing the assets of foreign and domestic players that interfered with the United States.
I mean, that has to be the most brilliant executive order I have ever heard, because I've been hearing about that for a couple of years now. And I'm thinking, man, one piece of paper, I don't know if it was one page or multiple pages, but allowed us to seize assets. If you interfere with he signs it, and it changes the earth, basically, if we follow
Yeah.
through. Yeah.
And in that order was also when he declared a national emergency,
Yeah.
put the military in charge.
Yeah.
And that is why we have had boats off of the coast of England, off of Australia, off of Japan, in the Mediterranean Sea. Those are our Navy boats, because the JAG officers are the ones that are handling the criminal activity.
Yeah, no more compromised courts in New York and DC and all those things. JAG takes over, and guilty is charged, and then it's life in prison or the noose or whatever it is, right? You just get it done.
Yes. But
Yeah.
now, okay, you bring that up. Why was Maduro taken to the Southern District in New York?
Yeah, I wondered
Because
about that.
I think we got to watch the chess moves. Oh, we got to watch the chess moves. There's not.
Well, I wondered if the judges who convicted Trump were playing a part to make them look like they were easy. I don't know. I have find sometimes. No, that was real. That was real.
No. Steve, don't ever give any of these people a benefit of the doubt. Not a thought of a benefit of doubt. No, absolutely not. Because right now, Trump is also dealing with the judicial system.
Well, right, but what can you hint at least of why the Southern District of New York, if all the judges are bad? And I don't really know the different districts in which judges. I know in Florida there was a female judge that I think she was in Trump's neck of the woods. But this, I don't know how they decide which district it is. But is that considered a bad district just for getting actual justice in the Southern District of New York?
Well, it depends on the case, but if the warrant was issued out of the Southern District, of New York,
Okay.
out of that federal court. He was brought there.
He had to do it that way then.
Yes. But that doesn't mean we've got to see, because also Trump has been talking a lot about 2020. And we know where corruption in elections around the globe. We're starting to hear things about Smartmatic and Dominion and the company that Dominion bought and incorporated their things in there. So this is a watch this space. Don't come to any conclusions.
Okay.
Look at the players and also look at the objections, and don't make any assumptions. Just take it in and keep on taking it in, because then you'll get that little light bulb, that moment of, oh, because it was only when I really started looking at the fact that the cartels are dependent on the banking system. Why people that sell marijuana cannot use a bank, cannot get a bank account for their business, etc.
Right.
But the cartels are so important. And then when I started tracing it back and realizing that, okay, who hides money? Jeffrey Epstein was an expert in it. Who helped on the Iran-Contra affair? Jeffrey Epstein got the money for Khashoggi. So
way back then, huh?
Way
Wow.
back then. So if you start looking at those things, then you see what's making up the equation, and you can start understanding things. I think that Trump's been giving us certain hints about the topics. So we've got banking, we've got corruption, we've got cartels, we've got countries. And while the neocons are going regime change, Trump and Rubio are saying, no,
Nothing to do with the
we're not
regime.
neocons. It's not, because when it was controlled, you know, the other thing that I want to go look at is when 9/11 happened, Bush's initial response, I thought, was incredibly incompetent. And Blair had really taken the statehood response. People were respecting how he did. But when it came to weapons of mass destruction, Blair wanted that Iraq war, the British Empire, the imperialists, the cabal that controls everything, wanted that war to happen. And why were there no weapons of mass destruction? And I'm not sure I'd ever really feel bad for Bush or Cheney, but maybe they did make some decisions based on wrong information and got conned and brought into it.
I mean, I think it's just so far above our, because it depends on who you ask and who seems to be understanding. I remember seeing a picture of a jet that was buried in the sand, and you don't even know if the picture is real, but you hear about these things. I remember Saddam was hiding jets in Iraq at the time, or is it Iran? One of those two. No, Saddam was in Iraq, so he was hiding jets in Iran. But you don't know what's true and what's not true. I knew Saddam was an evil guy, but he might not have been evil to the degree that they were portraying him, like weapons, like he was ready to destroy the world. Did those weapons ever even exist? Because they wanted that war. They wanted the oil, you know, and I didn't know if it was Bush that wanted the oil, but somebody wanted that oil, right?
The cabal.
Okay.
Just, it all seriously comes back to the central bankers, the Crown Corporation, the cabal, however you want to call them, the City of London, British imperialism to control finances around the globe of just about every country. And the US was production economy that gave people the power to produce, the power to benefit from their actions. And that is what Trump is trying to bring back. So for me, if we just take those headings, I always need to look at the behavior that's going on, the
Yeah.
decisions that are going on, the policies that are being made, and the policies that are being fought. And that gives me the indications of where we're going. And I don't know about 9/11, and Rumsfeld 3 days before said we're missing $3 billion from the Department of Defense. I don't know those, and I'm not going to call it a conspiracy theory. That is information that's out there that we still haven't gotten some of the other pieces of the puzzle to make a conclusion. And so I'm also saying, by highlighting these things, we need to put more puzzles together. And Maduro is not an edge piece around that puzzle. Maduro is a piece in the center of that 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. And we need to find the pieces that attach to him and build it out.
That's
And-
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, pardon me. I didn't mean to interrupt
That's
that.
right. No.
Let me just ask this and kind of wrapping up here. Nobody knows the time on this. Probably President Trump may know the time, or he may have to go by events, but rather than the time factor. But he has said multiple times that the 4th of July, we're going to have the greatest celebration. And I think he said other things that we didn't see with our eyes when those dates came. But he acted like starting 4th of July, we're going to celebrate for a year. Or maybe he said this year, we're going to celebrate for the year. Okay, we're in January. There seems to be an escalation. Last time I was on with you, you wisely said we need to be patient and let things play out and don't be in a hurry, which I agree. On the other hand, if you're in sort of a 6-month window, thank you very much, 7-month window or something like that.
Yeah.
And is Trump giving us a sort of a heads up that we're going to be in sort of a rejoicing period? By that time, the 4th of July, we will not have even come to the elections yet for the midterm elections. What are your thoughts about, because things are exploding every week, things explode more, and it's like Trump seems to be on an acceleration of unfolding things. What are your final thoughts on what's all going on?
If I don't know if it's online, I was actually there in the cold, sitting on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, looking out at the George Washington Memorial, where there is a video show on the George Washington Memorial.
Okay, saw that.
Culminates in fireworks.
Okay.
But the show, the narration, takes us through our history. Now, people thought that our 250th celebration was going to be in Iowa, but Trump is saying it's going to be in DC.
Okay.
So why did he have the National Guard come in and clean up DC before this? So that's the best answer I can give you.
Okay.
It goes back to, what are we seeing?
Yeah.
And we have to keep on watching this space.
Yeah. Really, really good. That's a great answer, because that gives me, a window to put some hope in. And of course, we will encourage all our people to always keep your prayers going, because we trust God in this. We also trust what I call God's Cyrus for our time, President Trump. And they even in Israel, they put, I forget what the sign read. I think it said Donald Trump, God's Cyrus or something like that.
Yes.
There it is. Yeah, Cyrus the Great is alive. Yeah, I think he is. I believe he's that. I believe he literally is that. Not incarnation, I don't mean like that, but that he is the next version of Cyrus, for our time.
Well, Steve, how many people from the moment he came down the golden escalator believed that God sent him to us?
I did. I sure did.
People said that from the very, very beginning. They were in touch spiritually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. his cause is righteous and no one can deny it. And if they are, that almost began to be the dividing line, who people heard what he said he wanted to do, and they started hating on them. They were drawing their own dividing line of where they stood in righteousness and just being on the right side of history instead of the wrong side of history. So, well, Dr. Jan, God bless you so much. This is really, really good. I mean, very, very good. I hope you'll come back, of course, many, many times. So we'll get you scheduled and we'll come back and get the next chapter and all this. But thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much. And glad you're welcome back to the U.S. now that you're moving over here. Hope your furniture and belongings get here soon. And yeah, stay in touch on all that if you will. And so, all right, thank you very much. Let's tell everybody, let's see, Johnny Inlow will be with us on Monday. This is Friday for you. We're recording this on Thursday afternoon, but Johnny will be with us on Monday. I'll be with Johnny, and we'll get the next chapter of that as well. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Jan. I appreciate it very much. We'll see you all later. Have a great weekend, and God bless you all. See you later then. Bye-bye.
God bless you. Bye.
Join us for an unforgettable journey to the Holy Land, the 2026 Israel Tour with ElijahStreams. Experience powerful worship with Robin Bullock and the 11th Hour Band. And be inspired by Steve and Doreen Shultz, Yvonne and Mina Attia, Mike and Lori Sally, and Michael Wilhelm. Steve Swanson will be leading us in music as we walk where Jesus walked, worship at historic sites, and connect deeply with the land and its people. This is more than a tour. It's a spiritual encounter. Spots are limited, so register now at ElijahStreams.com/Israel26.